I might do is start with a formal welcome. I would like to start by acknowledging that I am coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I well and truly pay my respects to their leaders past, present and emerging. I think I also want to acknowledge personally that until I think until we reach a treaty with our First Nations people, that I think it'll be difficult for us to move forward as a country. And increasingly you will see Women for Election Australia publicly committing to how we are going to help to our utmost degree our First Nations people, particularly women, run for office. And I want to welcome in particular Di Lee today for joining us. Di, you've had such an extraordinary career, and the whole idea about holding these sessions is to let our followers hear from women who have run for office, maybe in office now, maybe retired from office, hear about their experiences, what they've learnt, and why they want more women beside them in our legislative chambers as well. Now, you've had a career as a journalist. You ran for in a state government election. You ran in a local government election. You're currently a councillor. You've also founded the Dawn Network. Yeah. It's hard to know exactly where to start, but where I'm going to start on this occasion is to ask you, all the way back in 2012, you decided you were going to run in a New South Wales state election. What 2008. Was it? 2008. Oh God, I've got that wrong. You look so young. What was it that motivated you, that really lit the fire that you wanted to run? Tell us about it.
You know how you talk about, I'd like to also acknowledge the traditional owners of the land upon which we gather, where I live. So basically for me, I don't see it as a career. So I saw myself, I got to the point in my journalism career, which was actually a career, because I really, wanted to write. I wanted to tell stories. I wanted to discover the world. I wanted to understand human beings and around the globe. And so my desire was to actually progress in that career as a journalist, from becoming a local journalist reporting out at Fairfield City to going to the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, an iconic institution in terms of the media. And after that, I was going to go into making a feature film. But it was my last trip to Malaysia. I was covering a story for foreign correspondent on the return of the Boat people following a Australian Vietnamese refugee family going back to Malaysia to the place where they were interned, processed, and where they lost 2 of their four children in arriving at that port. So, and when I got back to Australia, to Sydney, I was shopping in Cabramatta, and at that time, the then member for Cabramatta, the Minister for Health then was Ribamar, who resigned. And I was remembering walking around, and people, in particular, I don't know about other ethnic communities, but in particular the Asian Australian community, they don't talk politics. They don't get involved. They kind of just put their heads down and work and all that stuff. But as I was walking around shopping, and people were discussing politics for the first time. They were saying, "Oh my God, we can't believe this person. We've elected them for 13 years. We placed our trust in her, and yet she now, for the first time, she can represent us, and she just decided to not represent us because she, didn't get the health ministry." And I always thought it was really fascinating. I'm thinking, why are people talking about politics? And then my husband said to me, you wanted to do something different. I think you can be the voice for this community. They just don't have a voice. Why don't you think about politics? And I thought, I just looked at him and thinking, me in politics? Like, I had I'm an atypical Vietnamese refugee in the first place, because I talk more than normal people. I do have an opinion more than normal. And I thought, oh my God, and being in journalism and having that kind of communication, going out there doing a lot of desk knocks and door stopping, that personality of mine has developed through my career as a journalist. And I thought, I don't know if I can fit into politics. But I thought, okay, well, I was looking to do something new anyway. Let me try this. And so I did. I kind of put my hand up, and I thought, well, there was a by-election within 2 weeks of me coming back from Malaysia. There was a by-election within 2 weeks. So I thought, I contacted the Liberal Party and said, look, I don't know if you guys are looking for candidates or not, but I'm happy to put my hat in the ring and run for the state seat of Cabramatta. And as they say, the rest is history.
Well, you know, I think, well, you've raised something that, I mean, you've raised a lot there, but I think you ran, because people following and listening to you now at different stages of their political journey. Some may be just entertaining the fact that maybe one day they'll run. Some are actively pursuing, pursuing information now. You ran with the Liberal Party in the state election. You lost the election, although you did very well.
I would like to say I won the election, although I was not elected. Yep. I was not elected. I missed out by 1,000 votes. But considering, I didn't even know this, Cabramatta was the second safest Labor seat in the country at 30%. So I felt I won it in a sense that, sure, I didn't get elected, but I just missed out by 1,000 votes. And you know what? When you run and when you do something new like that and you had no previous knowledge, your perspective of winning is different, because I felt I won that bloody election.
I think we sing from the same book, because we often say there is many definitions of success and many definitions of win, and just running is a huge win. Conversations would have been had in that election that weren't going to be had unless you were running. So you started that conversation, and that's clear, because the next time you ran, you won, actually, be it at a local government election. And I think that's really important. So now you're a councillor representing your community. You didn't run for a major party on that occasion. You ran as an independent. Can you give us some tangible examples of how you representing your community has helped your community just by you being there and being present?
It's been a really interesting journey for me. Obviously understanding the political process and the system as well, and navigating through that. And I'm still navigating through that. Even though I've been involved now for 10 years, I am still navigating through that, because being part of a major party, they have the machineries. And so you rely a lot on the machineries to say, okay, you do this, you do that. But I think as an independent, you kind of have to really start from scratch. It's like a startup. So you learn about so many things. But one of the greatest thing that I've learned in being elected to local government was that people coming to me and say, we're so grateful that you're there because you're the voice for us in the community. And Fairfield community, there at least 50% of the population have got parents who are one or two parents who are either born overseas. And at least 25% of them are of refugee background and a Vietnamese speaking background. So a lot of them approached me, asking for, the smallest things. But the feedback I've received is that, oh, thank God you're there because you understand us, not just linguistically, but you understand our mindset and our thinking and our way of doing things. But I think it takes more than just one person. And I think for me, working with a team on council who see a similar vision, which is to fight for the resources, to fight for what the community needs, it's what's important. I think there are a few people here that are on council, but unless you have that team, it's very hard to get things done. So I have to give credit to the team that I have, that I work with, whereby we are now rolling out a lot of infrastructure and services that people over and over and over again since 2012, that's when I got elected, have said to me, without you and without, of course, the elected mayor as well, that without you guys working the way that you've worked, we will not see all of the infrastructures that we're seeing now that we have not seen before. And that's the thing, they have not seen it before. And they have not seen it before because it was in such a safe seat and nobody cared to campaign because the thing was safe anyway, we're going to get re-elected, so it doesn't matter. And so taking away that safe seat aspect, and it took a while to educate the community because they don't understand that. They don't understand. I mean, I had two people just, of ethnic background doing my NBN this morning. And they said, you know what, we don't care about, we can't be bothered voting. We just go in there, we blank a blank vote, a ballot paper, because we don't know any of them. They don't stand for any of us. And these are two younger people. I'm thinking, oh my God. But then last week when I was having dinner with 10 of the people that I have nurtured, and I've set up a Southwest Entrepreneurial Hub where I'm kind of nurturing these entrepreneurs, and 10 of them said to me, you have taught us not to donkey vote. You have taught us that we should vote. So for the first time, we're not donkey voting. And for the first time, we actually don't just put a blank ballot paper in the box. That's 10. And this, I'm thinking, oh my God, think of how much work we need to do to educate the community into voting, knowing how to vote. I don't know if that's the right term to use. Of course, they know how to vote. They vote blank. They don't want to vote. That's how they vote. But to really be mindful about that when they place that number in that box, we still need there's still a lot of work to be done.
Well, look, I think that's part of what we're trying to achieve and you're trying to achieve, Di, in terms of getting more people with lived experience of diverse backgrounds that are representative of the communities that they govern, because of all the benefits that brings. And one of those benefits is an interest, a re-engagement back in the process. Yeah. And that spreads and spreads and spreads and has so many tangible benefits in terms of trust in democracy, the visibility of you out in your electorate and your ward with your community, and how engaged people get as a consequence of that. I don't think it can be understated at all.
Yeah, and I think social media has there are the pros and cons. I think social media, the emergence of social media have really enabled elected representatives more accountable, and they're more visible. So accountable and visibility. When they're visible, that means they have to be accountable. And therefore voters are now more aware that before we don't have social media, so you kind of really, you follow what your father or your grandparents tell you to vote for, but now you're actually able to access more information and you can see more of our elected representatives or those candidates who want to be elected. So I think for me, I'm playing and that's where I'm utilizing that platform and the ability to communicate and engage, and knowing that previous politicians prior to social media, they don't care about engagement, and therefore now they have to be be prepared to engage to get re-elected. So I think there are lots of opportunities in the future for diversity of representations in Parliament, in elected representatives. But we then also have to encourage, like what you guys are doing, encourage more women to participate, to take part, because that's where the challenge is now for me, is to build that pool, because we don't have that pool, I believe, in terms of diversity of candidates to be elected. Yes.
Well, we're working hard. We're working hard to improve that, and I think it was remiss of me. Everyone will have the opportunity to ask questions shortly. We'll turn the chat function on, and we can ask questions. I'm going to take a couple more in the interim, but there is no lack of talent of women and women out in our community being community leaders. we just want to help inspire more of them to be able to translate what they're doing now, which is often 9/10 of a political representative, into a political career. So, you know, and women are mobilising in this country, no question.
I know. Like women for election.
Look, I want to chat a little bit now about, well, you know, last week was a great example. We tried to chat with you. We got hacked, which we all wear as a badge of honour. There's no doubt that women face more barriers when running for election than men, and the training modules we designed are all designed to cater specifically to help women overcome those barriers. If you then overlay race over the top of that, those barriers increase, sadly, even more. And I know you've experienced, as a woman of colour running in office, you know, many challenges, whether they be face-to-face or online. When you run, when you voice your opinion, when you show that you're a leader, what advice would you give to women of colour about running for office?
I have been trying to recruit, going out there and recruit probably sounds like a bit, you know, inspire the next generation to really consider step into politics, and in particular people of culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. And there is the often feedback I get often is that, oh my God, I don't know why you do what you do. You don't get paid a lot of money. It's so dirty. There's all of these games that people play, and they don't really focus on the community, and it's really self-interest. And you can't even look around and think, well, that is predominantly true, because when you look around at our elected representatives, a lot of them, you know, if you look at council, a lot of people get on, probably had initial good intention, but once they get on, they realize that, you know, oh, well, we can get the rezoning here, or we can get this done there, and they just get it done. I mean, one of the guy that kind of was trying to install my NBN was saying, you know, he got a call from NBN to fix up this thing in Bondi by an MP, and it was done within a few hours, right? And they had to do it. And I thought, oh my God, is that how we utilize our position, our office, our elected office? I don't think that is what we should utilize it for. But what they say, what these young people say to me is that there's no status, right? So there's no status in being elected. And so for my advice to them is that if you want to make a difference, if you want to have shape policies, if you influence decision makers, politics and the media to some extent, politics is where you actually should consider giving it a go. And the second thing I said to them is that, but if you do consider that, you need to ensure that you're going to have such armor around you, so that any kind of attacks that you that gets thrown at you, you don't take it personally. That it's not about you; it's just about that person, really. So building that I suppose resilience, or that armor around you, takes a few years, I think, to develop. And I think I'm lucky in that I developed that through obviously, you know, having escaped, being a refugee, living in refugee camps, surviving that, surviving coming here and learning English. So I then need to ensure that I had to participate, because I had to learn English to participate, learning the art of storytelling. So all of those, I think I failed a lot of the times, and that's what made me be able to take on attacks or criticism. And I think it takes, for me, that advice, although to say to build your armor, it takes, was easy to give, it's harder to really build, because that takes about experience, about what you've experienced and how many times you fail before you actually build that. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I think again, lots of definitions of success, Di, and what we try to tell our alumni and all the women at our events, that resilience is like a muscle. The more you use it, the more it builds. and you also don't need to have all the skills before you put yourself forward. You've bucked the trend. You ran twice and you got elected.
I had no experience.
Look at that.
Networks. I had no, and Women for Election didn't exist back then, right? So you now have Women for Election, an organization that actually really helps and champion that and provide that mentoring support. When I ran, there's no one, you know, and that was I'm thinking, oh my God, I must have been so mad to have done that, because I had no one to turn to, and there were hardly any women that I could turn to, let alone coloured women. So therefore, that was really, I look back and think that was really mad, because, oh, would I do it again? Yeah, I would.
There we go. Well, not only would you do it again, you're taking others on the journey as well. You know, I think that's to be commended. I want to rewind just for a second, because the whole idea about how you run is a very opaque process, okay? And some would say it's deliberately kept opaque. And that includes things like whether you're going to run for a party or whether you're going to run as an independent. So we try to shine a light on how all of that happens. Can you spend a couple of minutes talking about, were you a party member before you ran for the Liberal Party? Did you approach them first? Like, just break it down to shine a light on how it works.
I didn't know how it worked, but looking back, this is how it worked for me. I, being a journalist, you know, at the ABC, I had no political aspirations, none whatsoever. So therefore, I wasn't part of any major party. So, but the reason why I chose the Liberal Party was that I felt there are a few things. One is that it was very much in individual, you know, the freedom to business-wise, the individual aspect, the focus of it. Ironically, I come from a culture that's very collectivism. It's about collective group. But you know, growing up in a Western society, you become more of an individualistic, you know, you focus on the individual. And I believe focusing on the individual, that you can then bring together people. So and I was not a union kind of person. And hence I just thought, well, the Liberal Party. And the other thing was that I thought, well, this area has been such a safe seat. And back then it was either Labor or Liberal. So I wasn't going to go with Labor because it was a Labor seat. And I felt that they took advantage of the community. And there was only one other option, which was the Liberal. And then I thought, you know, the Liberal Party has been known also to be anti-Asian. So I thought, well, I want to test that to see, you know, can I be part of that party? Can they actually embrace me? Because that is what we hear and that's what we saw in the media. And so I wanted to challenge that perspective. And so, yeah, that's how I joined. I rang them up and I said, look, I'm considering to run. What do you think? And they had no idea who I was. Actually, I had to call somebody who I knew was a Liberal councillor, and he rang and they said, oh my God, they want to talk to you. And so I went in, talked to them, and then I ran for the Liberal Party for Cabramatta in 2008, and again in 2011 at the general election, because 2008 was the by-election. So from 30%, I brought it down to 7%. And then in 2011, I brought it down to 1.5% from a 30% seat to one of the most marginal seats. Then Cabramatta became the second marginal seat in the country. Yeah. So I was with the Liberal. And then when it came to 2012, for the local government election, again, I wasn't going to run. I thought, you know what? I gave state a go. I want to continue with the state journey. And but then the local colleagues said, no, Di, you need to run. You need to get elected onto council because your community need your voice there. So I said, okay, well, and it was just like I successfully ran, and then I just got elected on council in 2012. But then I ran as an independent because the Liberals did not endorse. Back then, they did not endorse Liberals to run, so we ran as independent. Yep. And then in 2016, when I tried to run again for the mayorship, due to local personalities, they men, ethnic men, then they wanted me out. They wanted to get rid of me from council the moment I got elected anyway. And so they did what they could to ensure that I was going to be expelled from the party. And so in 2016, I decided to run again, and the Liberal Party gave me permission to run as an independent councillor, but they would not let me run as an independent mayor. And I said, well, why not? I said, I've been flying the flag out here. I've been doing as much as I could for this community and for your brand. And due to obviously local manoeuvring, branch stacking, all of those things that we often read in the papers and we don't really think it happens, you know, the numbers of all of that shuffling around, then obviously, you know, I did not have the numbers. I decided to run for the mayor, and then I got expelled. So I have been expelled from the Liberal Party from 2016, and I ran as and so within 2 weeks, or within a few days of me being expelled, I had to find a way to run a ticket. So I ran a ticket as an independent, and I delivered the first independent mayor as well. So we ran together on a ticket, and so we got an independent. So Fairfield has been elected as, for the first time ever, having an independent team on council, and it's been amazing. It's been great.
Well, I mean, no, there's so much in that, Di. Honestly, you've crammed so much into those years. But I think it's really important because too often we think we know how it works, and one of those things is you have to be a party member for years and years before they will consider letting you run, and that's just not the case. It might have been the case in the 60s, but it is not how it works anymore. You know, there's a couple of federal members at the moment sitting in Canberra that joined the party a fortnight before they ran. So the old rules don't apply like they used to.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's arbitrary. It depends on that person, that candidate, that, you know, that whether they've got they've got the connection, they've got the network, they're part of the establishment somehow, and therefore they don't have to be part of the party, and they'll be, you know, be candidate, and the numbers will then, you know, kind of line up behind them, and being the kingmaker who will be making them the king. There is an actual kingmaker. No, I never thought of that, but there is actually a kingmaker. Yeah. So, and I just thought that fascinating, you know, being a journalist in my head, like it's something in the past that I would dig into, and here I'm living it, and I just thought that was very fascinating.
I think that's why some of us have converted to queen makers, Di. And by the way, that's across the major parties as well. So whether, you know, that long-term membership, the two people that I quoted in the federal system, one's in the Liberal Party, one's from the Labor Party. One's a man, one's a woman, just to give full disclosure there. So, you know, you just can't assume that the way somebody's told you how it works, that it is how it works.
Absolutely.
One of the best things that you can do is get yourself informed, whether it be attending the local council meetings, which you can do online now, which is fantastic, or whether it be get knowledge about your local MP. Is it a safe seat? A lot of people don't run because it's a safe seat, but it's a safe seat because nobody's ever run against them.
Absolutely.
So there's that dynamic as well. Look, I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to ask the audience to pose their questions in chat. You established the Dawn Network, Di, in part because of your own lived experience as being a culturally and linguistically diverse woman, not just running in politics, but in leadership in general. Can you tell us a bit more about the mission of Dawn and what you're hoping to achieve, and how we can parlay into that to help more diverse women run in Australia as well?
Thanks, Licia, for that. Yeah, look, after I suppose my experience working or on that journey into being elected, And actually, for a short time, I had spent a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, working for members of Parliament in their offices, basically walking the halls of Parliament houses, both in Sydney, in New South Wales, and in Canberra.
Oh, interesting.
When I walked around and I found that the majority of people who work or advise for these MPs, including the MPs themselves, are predominantly, Anglo white males and young males. And I thought, surely there are more of us out there. There are more, people with either disability or people who are coloured. Like, there are people out there that are not part of this system. And why is that? And then I went on this mission to find out this diversity of stories that exist. And I suppose drawing back to my, journalism skills, and just wanted to really drive that conversation around the lack of diverse leaders across our mainstream institutions, and not just in politics, because in the same as in business. And you think, well, if you are going to evolve as a society and where we are geographically around the world, I see Australia as being the best country as the United Nations if we actually brand ourselves that way. But we're not. We're not harnessing and tapping into the diverse, abilities, the diverse skill set and diverse cultures and perspectives that we have in Australia. And so I set up Dawn to drive, and I drove that conversation for the last, working mainly with the corporate sector, and I work with some government agencies, going in there and talking to them about the importance of tapping and harnessing the diverse talent that they have. And the majority of the people that I target, of course, are culturally and linguistically diverse talent. In order for me to talk about building confidence, because a lot of them lack confidence to lead, lack confidence of putting their hands up and say, look, if you think about it in class, when I was a child growing up, and because English wasn't my first language, I sat in the back of the class and I would never put my hand up to answer a question because I was too scared. It'll come out, I'll stumble and I'll make myself sound stupid and I couldn't articulate myself. So I sat in the back of the class. And so that being carried with me until I got, obviously, halfway through journalism, where I felt that I need to voice myself, or otherwise I will not be heard. And so I kind of use that, my own personal experience, to say, we can make a difference. We can sit at a table, or we can ask to be asked to be at the table and contribute to the conversation around policies, around ideas, to help shape society, or to shape communities, and to even shape our local communities. And so that was what drove me to set up Dawn, and we did really well. But then with COVID-19, we pivoted very quickly, and we're now shining the light on stories that matter. That's our purpose, developing a media platform. Again, the media is so not diverse enough for me. The people that run it, the people that present it, so therefore we don't have diverse perspectives to give us an insight into an issue or into a matter. And so that's what Dawn is about.
Yeah. Well, fabulous. And we've been following Dawn for some time. In fact, the very first conference that I ever attended, when I was an attendee at a Women for Election conference in 2017 rather than the CEO, you presented at that. And it was there that I first got exposed to Di Lee, the powerhouse, and everything that you were doing for diverse communities in New South Wales predominantly, but across the country with the Dawn Network as well. So, I think it's important that we keep highlighting those stories and then taking that to the next level. Highlight the stories, empower them to move into leadership positions, and for our remit, that means into public office, whether that be local, state or federal. So look, we're going to open up the chat now, Di, if you're happy to take some questions from our attendees, and that might be related to campaign skills, or I'm always interested to know what people want to run, the skills they think they need versus what you end up doing the most. So and I see there's a question there from Brinny now. Are there women you are mentoring currently who you hope will stand for election, Di?
Well, I'm still trying to convince them. So that's the problem with women of colour, not just Asian Australians, but other women of cultural, linguistic, diverse backgrounds, because they're very hesitant. Obviously, English is not their first language, first of all, or those who even were born here, whose English is their first language, but they're very hesitant because they feel that politics is quite brutal, and they have seen, you know, the stories. They've read stories about me, how my journey has been, and I always look at the glass half full, not half empty. So I said to them, look, what has happened to me has made me who I am today. So don't read the stories and say, oh my God, this is what happened to Di, and if this is going to happen to me, people are going to attack me, people are going to spread rumors about me, spread stories about me. I said, look, there'll be rumors about you, and that's the art. Well, not the art. That's part of the political journey process, is that people spread rumors. I said, but if you remain true to who you are and what you're there for, focus on it. Focus on doing what you think is best for the community. And so for me, you know, being on, getting, really campaigning to get elected to the local government New South Wales board, is contributing back to the community, doing volunteering work, being on the multicultural board, whereby I'm actually doing things that are highlighting the richness of our society, and working with young people and mentoring them, shows that whatever rumors go spread around, whatever they can spread as much as they want, what matters to me is that the people that I work with, that I assist or help, they see what I do, and it's is that group of people. They'll spread the word, and I can't stop rumors, I said to these young people. And so trying to get them to think beyond that, it's challenging.
Di, there's like 4 questions that have come in really quickly, so I'm not going to hog. I'm going to go straight to the first one there, which is, what do you find to be the most effective campaign methods in standing for local government as an independent?
I think how it benefited me, what worked for me, was because I stood at the state election, and in that campaign, I really build my profile and build my story up through the state campaign, which flew onto the local government election. So I think if you haven't stood before, it doesn't matter then, you know, whether state or local or federal, but I think give it a go so that your profile can be built up, and therefore people know and aware of you. So you might not get elected the first time, but I think if you then continue to drive that campaign, then eventually people will get to know who you are. But I think if there's a state election coming up, or even a federal election, and if you're standing as an independent, I think go for it. And but I think, I don't know how to, in terms of registering. I think as an independent locally, you don't have to, you know, you just kind of put your name on. The problem is that when it comes for the ballot paper, your name will be not.
Yeah.
That's the difficulty. That's the other part of running as an independent.
I think, well, one of the questions here from Hiroya, who I think is coming to us from Japan. So hello.
Oh, wow, Japan.
How do you feel like moving out from a major party to an independent? Sometimes it seems like a liberating experience. Julia Banks, for instance, and this is where I say Women for Election does not endorse one way or the other. We are a non-partisan organisation. But what was the experience like for you, Di?
Look, I think it's been actually liberating to some extent, in that you are free. You don't have to toe the party line. You don't have to be like, if you post something, the party machine will say, "Oh, you can't post that." So it has been really liberating in my freedom of speech, the ability to say, but then knowing that I need to say things in a responsible manner anyway. So I don't go out there and make mad claims and all that stuff. I'm still responsible, but being able to have that freedom to express yourself and to design your own brand around that has been liberating. The downfall, though, of not being part of the machineries is when it comes to election time. you then have to garner the support and of people to go out there to help you campaign, handing out how to vote, manning the booths, because my God, for federal electorates can man up to about, I think, 40 or 50 booths. State is about 30 booths, and then the local government is around the same thing. It's about 30 booths. So there's 30 booths that you have to man, and every booth you have to have at least 2 minimum at least to help out. And so that is the challenge of being an independent, is you don't have that.
Yeah.
And when you're part of a major party, the people who help you hand out how to vote are members of the party, and members of the parties are often really passionately mad about the party. So they'll come and help you handing out how to vote. And so that's the downfall. But, so there's the pros and cons of running as an independent.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Look, I know there's a couple more questions, and I'm conscious we have to get you to your 1 o'clock board meeting as well. Here's a great one for you. What are the advantages to being a female candidate? We often focus on the barriers. What are the advantages?
You know what? It's amazing, because people really, the first thing is that they trust women more. And they think, oh my God, at least they feel that a woman can actually communicate better. They do have, we are seen to be a bit more emotional, but that emotional means we are actually more caring. That means we are more considerate, and we think things through. And I think as a woman, how we apply ourselves at home, which is we run the household, we manage our kids, the husband, we plan things, we shop, and we do the same thing. We can multitask. so give it to a busy woman, and they'll do the work. And so I think the advantage of being a woman is the fact that you can elicit a more trusting image, and that they know that you're in it for a good reason majority of the time.
Yeah.
But I think the downfall again is that being a woman, you have more responsibilities in the home, and you have to try and find the time to do what you want to do, as well as find the time to care for your family and run the family. And that is where the challenge is.
Yep. Okay. Well, no, I do think too often we focus on the barriers that women have, but don't necessarily focus on the advantages. And there are advantages, and I think particularly in the last couple of years, the momentum behind women running and people paying more attention to women's names on ballot sheets. I think that we have the wind in our sails in terms of getting more women elected in the coming years. So, look, I'm going to have one more question, Di. So, and this is from Angelina. How much do you feel as a politician you get to really make a difference versus play politics or compromising? And does that differ whether you're in a party or as an independent? Do you feel like you're making a difference, Di?
You know what? I ask myself that on a daily basis. And I think that, when I look at some of the projects that I have supported, and I'll give you an example. So we're now building another car park in Cabramatta. Prior to me getting into politics, people have complained about car parking in Cabramatta and the surrounding areas because there's been no investment, there's been no one looking into building the car park, and people just, and then when I started campaigning in 2008, council then got, and the federal government as well, who was then Labor government, decided to invest prior to the 2010 election, invest some money to build the car park. But that's after me campaigning. And then once I got elected into 2012, with a new team, we were able to then implement more car parking into the area. And so for me, I looked back. So we just opened we just launched the next project to build another car park. I thought, because that was known as the car parking queen as well, by the way. Suddenly car parking sort of that the community has wanted has suddenly just popped up. And I look back and thinking, well, I at least managed to get an infrastructure piece that the community has asked for 20 years prior has never got. We just finally got that done. And I did make a difference there. I have also, there are infrastructures that are now being built in our area that has never been seen before. And I look and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've contributed to that. But there are times when I have to play the politics in a sense that I don't have to manipulate, I don't do that. But, there are moments when I have to agree to, I can't think of an example, but agree to say, okay, I'll let that person, support that person on the committees of selection to be on the members of committees of council. I will say, okay, I won't put my hand up for that because I know it'll cause a bit of politics and people will start to play politics. And I say, okay, I won't play politics. I won't put my hand up. If I get given that, I'll get given that, because it's not important for me to get a position. What's important for me is to get things done. And so I will give up on those kind of things.
Well, that's compromise, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's compromising. Yeah, so more than playing politics, but it's just compromising things. And would it differ? Is party independent of party? I think it's similar. I don't think there's a difference there.
Okay. Yep. Yeah. Well, that's good to know. Certainly the even in my local council, I see those that are elected via party, those that are independent, those that are being most effective for their community have to compromise. They're compromising at different points. But to get things done, as distinct from never compromising to get nothing done.
You know what? I think it comes down to the individual as well, so much in the individual values, upbringing, lived experiences. So therefore, for me, I drive so much that conversation around lived experiences on Dawncast, my media platform, is that if you've had a lived experience of what it feels like to have had nothing and build something up, you would appreciate things more. And so I think a lot of that individual values that you bring, how you were brought up, what your environment was like, what your parents taught you, I think you carry that into your life in no matter what role you want to play in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Di, for sharing your experience. And, we can't wait to see what the next election cycle brings for you.
I'm still waiting for that state seat.
Yeah, well, the third time's a charm. So I think you've got the profile and the, and the backdrop that it puts you in such good stead. And we are very appreciative of you sharing your time last week and this week. And
thank you.
If I can get everyone to put their hands up and put them together in the video to say thank you to Di. Please, everyone, stay tuned for announcing in July. We will be launching our first ever online training workshops. There's going to be a limited number of people that are going to be able to register for that. So please keep an eye out for it so you can register as soon as you can. And we have upcoming In Conversation series over the next fortnight as well that we would love to see you at. And we also launched our 2000 by 2022. We are fundraising to be able to help 2,000 women run by the year 2022 in this country. Those are women that weren't going to be running otherwise, because we want more of that collaborative, non-partisan female leadership spirit in our legislative chambers. So thank you, everyone. Di, thank you again.
Thank you so much. And if I can do anything, please do reach out and let me know if I can assist in any way. I'll find my time. I'll find the time.
Good on you, Di. We really appreciate it. Okay, thank you, everyone.